Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at landing in gusty conditions and kind of what we have to do differently in order to make sure we can get safely down onto the ground. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be flying the Cessna 152 here, which is a good example of what happens in gusty conditions and how it makes it really tricky to control the plane. We'll see why in a second. Go ahead and get started. So first things first, we're sitting here. This is in central Connecticut here. This is up near Ellington, Connecticut. I think we're actually over Summers right now. I think I recognize that field. Nobody's running the horses today. That's all right. So what we're going to be doing is landing on this little rinky-dink airstrip. This is actually one of the shortest concrete airstrips, or asphalt airstrips, I should say, up here in Connecticut. It's about 1,800 feet, and you really have to be on your game in order to get this thing safely down under the ground. A fun story with this on a 182, where I actually landed with the wrong direction of the wind, and basically, that was way more braking force than I think I've ever applied to an airplane before. So what we're going to do is we're going to be landing this aircraft in a non-gusty conditions. Then we're going to reset it, bring it to a gusty conditions, and then we're going to show you what happens if you try to use the same landing technique. All right, let's do it. All right, slow down there. Go ahead and set my head back. Go ahead and pull the power back. Cessna 152 is the Twitch Mobile. The local flying club, the reason I've been playing with this thing so much recently is they're going to be getting one, and I really look forward to not having to pay $200 an hour to go flying. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and pop those flaps down. This is 152 flaps, which means push your nose down, wait for the flaps, and now we're good to go. Sweet. So the approach speed on a 152 is 55 knots. You're sitting there going, where'd you get that number from, Chief? I got it right out of the POH. Now, the interesting thing about approach speed, and this could be an entire additional video that we can get into here, is that approach speeds are actually a tricky thing because basically they're going to be a combination of, what does the indicated airspeed actually tell you? What is the calibrated airspeed because of angle of attack? All those factors are going to have a big impact on what our approach speed is actually going to be. But the book says do 55 knots indicated. I'm going to try to keep this thing as close as I can to 55 knots indicated on my approach here. So this is the lovely 1-9er. No helicopter practice today, no skydiver practice today. It makes my life easier. Pull that throttle back a little bit, and we're just kind of coasting in here. This is a 152, which means you got to hold it about an inch off the ground. Skirt. And we're just going to go ahead and stick my controls into the wind and not ride the brakes as hard as I just did. All right, so pretty standard landing. As far as 152 quality, probably an 8 out of 10 landing there. I might even go as low as a 7 on that one. Not bad. There wasn't a lot of flare, but again, I came down pretty well, pretty evenly. I didn't use that much runway. I only stood on the brakes a little bit. You saw me lock up the right tire there as I was kind of coming in. Not the worst condition. So let me reset everything and bring in some gusts. All right, let's get this thing all squared away. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some gusts down the runway. We're going to be completely fair. So we're landing on runway 19er today, so I'm going to be nice and legal here. I'm going to go ahead and give myself an 8-knot gust, or 8-knot wind speed, which is average. And then we're going to grab ourselves some gusts that come from the direction of that we're traveling here. Make it real fair, man. It's like cheating. And gust speed there is 7, so that's 9 gusting 8. Yeek, that's unpleasant. 8 gusting 8 is that's some pretty serious gusts here. So we'll make it nice and neutral here. We'll do a gusting 5. I think that should be fair. 8 gusting 5s up to 13. That's pretty good. I like that. We'll go stick with that. So let's go ahead and unpause real quickly here. I'll pull that throttle back and get ready for a landing. So now we have wind coming at us. And not only do we have wind coming at us, but if I don't slow down right now, we're never going to get this plane down to the ground. Power slip. I love these little planes. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to use the same approach technique we did a minute ago. We're going to come in at 55 knots, assuming I can get this thing at the proper angle. And we're going to just, fly it like we normally do and see how our landing performance is here. Again, I'm just losing a ton of altitude here. There we go. Now we're nice. That looks like we're actually slightly high, but that's not bad. All right. Whoa. Hey. Start bringing in a little bit of power. Everybody knows the magic 19, right? For those of you who fly 152s and 150s, you know what I'm talking about. All right, let's see. Okay, that's not bad. This is conventional. This feels like 152 landing territory here. Getting a little low, but we're okay. There's our 55 knots. There's my 56 knots. Okay, there's 55 again. Looking pretty good. Still holding that 55 knots. Coming over the grass here. It looks pretty good. A couple little boosts of speed. That looks pretty good there. Let's go ahead and pull the throttle back. It's a 152, which means you have to fly it all the way to the ground, then start flaring. Oh boy. Okay. Easy on the brakes this time, so I don't skirt. So a couple things were different that time. One thing you probably observed was the fact that, yes, I did land the plane pretty much at the same distance as I did the first time, with less braking, by the way. The second thing you probably observed is the fact that we had a couple little bumps along the ride that put us at a really low speed. So low, in fact, that we could potentially have stalled the airplane right out of the air, have things be more dramatic. More dramatic, you say? Indeed. So what we've done here is we set the same exact scenario as we had a few minutes ago, but what we've done is change the gusts, which remember are only 5 or 6 knots, and we've increased the gust speed to 10 knots. Now, at 10 knots gust, that's a pretty substantial amount of wind speed. As a matter of fact, you can see as I'm starting to slow my plane down and getting ready to land here, does it see how it looks like the plane has just stopped moving? You get a lot of that with a 152. So I'm going to go ahead and set my approach. Whoa, okay, we're going to have to use the 19 method here. Set it to 19. By the way, if you're wondering what I'm referring to there, you just set your RPM to 19 and you're fine. So we're going to go ahead and do that and continue my approach here. I'm not going to ride the throttle here. I know better than to try to be aggressive, try to chase after it, because that's going to be challenging. Okay, this is interesting. Oh my gosh, now we're doing 50. Oh boy. You're easy, easy, easy. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, okay, careful. We almost stalled. Oh, we're getting slow, Oh boy. Okay then. Okay, there's 55. We're going to try to maintain that 55 here. As you can see from my controller, I'm having to earn this one. All right, 50 knots is pretty slow. Oh boy. Easy. Easy, boy. Easy. Onto the ground. And we're going to be nice and easy on the brakes. There we go. Woo. That actually got my blood pressure up a little tiny bit there. So what happened? A couple different things happened. One thing you notice is that I was about a millisecond away from jamming full throttle and going around. That was an incredibly unstable approach. I was doing every speed basically between 45 and 65 on the way down. And even though I successfully got us down to the ground, probably the best flare of my landing so far today, because now I've got practice in. You probably noticed that there were a couple times there where I basically bumped into the stall warning, even though I was maintaining the appropriate speed, because appropriate is the correct word there. So what do? How do we deal with these gusts? Well, the trick is use a higher approach speed. So we're going to go ahead and slow my little 152 down with a nice aggressive slip. Go ahead and pop those flaps down, push the nose down. So instead of coming in at 55, we're going to take the gust speed, half of it, and use that added to our normal approach speed. So the gust speed right now, we're gusting 10 today. So instead of coming in at 55, I'm going to come in at half at 10 plus the 5. So that'd be half at 10 is 5 plus 55 gets us up to 60 knots. So I'm at 60 knots instead of my typical 55 knots. And we're just going to see if it's a little easier to control the plane. Now, for those of you who have never flown a 152, you will notice that under 60 knots, the plane controls become so mushy, you basically can no longer steer the plane. So there's my 60 knots, and you'll notice I have to move my controls a lot less to do what I want to do here. So now we're pretty close to the ground. We'll go ahead and back the throttle out as we do our little last second approach here. And you'll notice the whole way down, whoop, there's a little bit of a balloon. Whoa! There we go, nice and down. You'll notice that as we kind of ground our aircraft here, we had a significantly greater amount of control during the approach half. Now, my mistake there, as you probably observed there, is carrying that extra 5 knots into the last bit caused us to balloon a tiny bit when we were landing here, which is one of the challenges, of course, of coming a little fast. Now, you're sitting there going, I'm still not convinced. Prove it to me. All right. Well, since you asked so nicely, I will prove it. So let's go ahead and set my wind up again here. Go ahead and grab it. We're going to make it a crosswind. We're going to do a 5-knot crosswind, which is quite a bit for this plane. That's enough to make you pay attention. And we're going to go ahead and do gusts that are also going to be crosswind, and we'll do 10-knot gusts. Oh my gosh, that's unpleasant. So we're gusting 11 here, which is that's enough. That's enough. That's going to make things very interesting for us here. So the wind is coming out of the west here. The wind, of course, of the western direction is going to be over there. My brain is completely upside down right now because, remember, I'm landing to the south. So now we have 2 sets of problems. We have the fact that the wind is not a consistent speed. We also have the fact that the wind is no longer pointing down the runway. So now if I try to approach at 55, which is our standard, we're busted. So again, I'm going to take half the gust, which will be 10 divided by 2, which will be 5, add that to my speed, and go up to 60 knots. Let's see how this one goes. We'll go ahead and do the standard little slowdown here. There's a bunch of 152 jockeys right now saying, dude, I've landed that thing in a 20-knot crosswind. I don't know what you're talking about. I do not recommend landing anything in a 20-knot crosswind. All right, let's see here. Left foot's going to come forward, right foot's going to go down, and it's going to look like I'm going straight. But the reality is that I'm actually slipping the plane. You can actually see how much rudder I've got in right now. And we're just going to establish ourselves in a conventional little slip here. So what I've got there is I'm going to put my right wing down into the wind. I'm going to push my left elevator forward, Or not left. That'd be interesting if we had a left elevator. I don't think we're a P-38. And we're just going to maintain 60 knots this time as opposed to that lovely 58. We're going to get bounced around a little bit. That's all kind of standard. And again, we can probably put a little more right aileron down. You can see nice and gentle response to my controls here. It feels like we're going fast, but we're really not. Go ahead and cut the throttle. Go ahead and keep that right aileron down. We're going to go ahead and keep it on the runway. Right wheel, whoop, just take your time. Right wheel down first. And we're just going to go ahead and hold the power as we don't sink. There it goes, right there, right there. Oop, too much brake, too much brake. And we're down. Now, as you could see there, I was able to maintain positive control because I was going so fast. Of course, as you noticed as well, this is the most runway I've sucked down this entire time. Remember, I didn't have a headwind this time, and I came in 5 knots faster, which again, you can see why everybody loves this runway just because of how sketchy it is to make these kinds of approaches with it. So hopefully you've seen a couple different little things here. The big thing here is if you do have gust, you got to come in a little bit faster. Now, some of you might say, now, if I were in a P-51 or that P-38 you were telling me about a minute ago, does that mean I still need to add 5 knots for a 10-knot gust? The answer is yes. You can also do that if you're an airliner. You can also do that if you're in something even smaller than this. But the key element is just remembering when those winds get inconsistent, you've got to go a little bit faster to maintain positive control. Enjoy.